What's up guys, welcome to the Metal Roofing channel. I'm Thad Barnette. If you don't handle and store metal coil properly, it can lead to injury, unusable material, equipment damage, lost time, and lost profits. Not to mention you can't submit a claim to the manufacturer for those kinds of issues. Sheffield Metals handles and stores hundreds of master and slit coils every single day, so we're gonna lean on their expertise to understand the best practices. All of this info comes straight from material handling pros. Your equipment capabilities and space will dictate how you move and store coil to an extent, but there are some considerations you should have in mind no matter what. So here's some of the best things to always keep in mind when moving coil. Number one, all employees who are handling the equipment that lifts or moves coil must be competent, trained, and certified if required. Ensure the equipment and your shop's floor, ramps, and any other parts of your environment are rated for the weight of the material you're lifting. Always examine the condition of the skid the coil is on. Make sure to never lift a coil on a broken skid because it can cause the material to be unstable and potentially fall. Make sure you always replace any damaged skids right away. Coil can be oriented two different ways, and that will affect how they're handled. Eye to the sky coils are in a vertical orientation with the center hole facing upwards or perpendicular to the ground, while horizontally oriented coil with the center hole facing sideways or parallel to the ground is called eye to the side. The majority of shops we encounter lift materials with forklifts, but occasionally overhead cranes are used with some kind of below-the-hook lifting device. Make sure you're following appropriate standards and safety requirements no matter how you lift your coils. Here's a couple forklift best practices to keep in mind. Firstly, make sure the coil is secure on the pallet before lifting. Like we said earlier, a vertically facing coil, or eye to the sky, is more secure on a pallet than a horizontally facing coil, or eye to the side, unless a roll cradle is used. Make sure the fork length and width are adequate for the specific lift. Every load size is slightly different, so before lifting any material, get off the forklift and adjust the width of the forks for that particular lift. When lifting, lift slightly off the surface to ensure the center of gravity is achieved and the load is balanced and secure. If the load is not secure and needs repositioning, lower the load and adjust the fork widths again. Assess how deep the forks will need to be inserted under the material. Be aware of what is behind the material you're lifting that could be damaged, as there may be a wall or another coil. If there's markings on the forks, use them to determine where to place a skid on the forks. Do not move too quickly. This could cause the material to fall off the forks or damage the pallet and material too. When moving the coil, the outer wraps of the coils should be secured tightly with tape or banding. Never lift or drag a stack of coils as a unit. You should always only move one at a time. When setting down a load, leave sufficient distance and spacing on all sides to allow the execution of a safe future lift. Additionally, know where material can and cannot be set down. For example, if you're using a C-hook or an upender to change the orientation of the coil, do not set the coil down on concrete or other flooring material. Keeping the coil on a pallet or other approved covering protects the material and its edges. So we talked about some material handling. Let's talk about best practices for storing metal coil. Always store the coil in a cool, dry environment with relatively stable temperatures, even when there's a covering or stretch wrapping on the coil. It's best to avoid prolonged exposure of any coil to wet or humid conditions, which can cause paint blistering or substrate corrosion, especially at cut edges. Condensation can form if excessive temperature fluctuations happen as well. Indoor storage avoids UV exposure and protects the material from dirt, debris, and other contaminants. Coil can get wet, however, the moisture generally has no easy way to escape. When pre-painted metal is coiled, water can creep between the laps of the coil and stay there for prolonged periods. And even with the best paint, the substrate metal can corrode if this water is there long enough. We recommend that if any coil gets wet, it needs to be dried within 72 hours. Protective PVC films are designed to protect sheets and coils in the fabrication process. PVC left on coils, finish panels, or trim pieces could break down when exposed to moisture or UV. It's universally recommended that protective plastic coating not be exposed to moisture or UV and be removed prior to installation. Again, if coils, sheets, or finished panels need to be left outside, they should still be stored under a covering in a cool, dry, and shaded space. Store coils in a spot where there's adequate airflow and ventilation. Be sure to store coil away from people in high traffic areas. Also, know how coils can or should be stacked. Slit coils can be stacked no more than 3 high, eye to the sky or vertical orientation. Master coils can be stacked no more than 2 high, eye to the sky or vertical orientation. Coils cannot be stacked in an eye to the side or horizontal orientation. Always stack the coil with the larger diameter on the bottom, as this will keep the stack more balanced. Do not set or stack anything on or between the coils. This can damage the material and cause a tip-over hazard. Ensure skids are in good condition and adequate for prolonged storage. Remember, if coils are not handled and stored in the correct way, they can become damaged or unusable. The integrity of the material will suffer, crew members can hurt themselves, and it can cost you. If you have any questions about how to handle or store coil, comment down below. We'd love to answer them. Subscribe here to the Metal Roofing channel. As always, I'm Thad Barnette, and I'll catch you next time.